Hi everybody, I'm Warren Logan. I've worked for every level of the government as a city planner, inside the government and outside for over 15 years.
And I'm Sam Rojas, a City Hall veteran, community builder, and urban tech advisor. And we are City People, exploring where planning, policy, community, and culture collide. Walk through any city today and you'll notice something strange. Different neighborhoods, same fonts, same muted colors, same clean, quiet sameness.
Corporate minimalism, formula retail, this could be anywhere. It's offending no one, yet it's not connecting to anyone either.
But cities didn't always look like this. They used to speak through hand-painted signs, layered storefronts, bold colors, and places that felt unmistakably local. Some of this culture still exists in neighborhoods that intentionally fought to preserve character, not without drama, like North Beach in San Francisco, the French Quarter in New Orleans, and Miami Beach's Art Deco Historic District.
This episode takes us to Barrio Logan in San Diego, California, where art has always pushed back against the sameness, where walls, windows, and signs tell stories about who belongs here and who this place belongs to.
We'll hear from Koi Sun, whose hand-painted signage keeps a more maximalist human way of making cities alive at a time when that craft is quietly disappearing.
But first, we start with a space that rejects formula retail entirely.
We're sitting down with Celi and Jesi, owners of Libélula Books Co, a bookstore built with intention, texture, and care.
Post-pandemic, economic uncertainty, rising rents, and still, they chose to create something layered, warm, and deeply personal in Barrio Logan.
Libélula isn't minimalist. It's curated. It's maximalist in the best way. Books everywhere, art on the walls, and people lingering.
A refuge for the LGBTQ+ and BIPOC community. A sanctuary for anyone craving joy, connection, and something that feels real.
In a moment when cities are flooded with copy-paste storefronts, Libélula asks, what if we design spaces around people?
This episode is about the soul of a city and the quiet resistance of places that choose character over conformity.
This is City People.
And we want to live here now.
Yeah. So whether they know it or not, we live in the basement now.
We hope you want to live here too. There's a basement.
Yeah.
We'll let you know. We'll let you know. But this is our new home, and we feel. I think the way that the owners have dreamt this place would feel.
Yeah.
I feel like I belong.
I feel safe.
I feel seen.
I feel welcomed.
I feel like any idea, any project could live in here.
It's like that warm hug.
It's a warm hug. It's sort of what you dream bookstores would be like growing up as a kid, but even as an adult now, the like playfulness of it and the texture.
The texture's so good.
And it's really, really deep connection to the community. There's so much here.
and there's so much here, and we cannot wait to tell you all about it.
Yeah, just as like the primer.
Yeah.
This episode is about the city heart.
Yeah.
There's hard infrastructure, and then there's soft infrastructure.
Totally.
And the soft part is that gooey place inside of us that makes us feel special,
warm,
and that you really like can't measure because it is that special. And so it's all about creating spaces where you feel like you belong, where we're curating very specific activities and reasons to connect with each other. And what does that mean to exist and survive and thrive in a growing city?
So,
with that, should we invite the owners?
Let's do it.
Yay! Oh my goodness. Celi? Jesi.
Oh, hello.
Hi.
I'm so good. Oh, your hands are cold, so now we just have to hold hands the whole time.
This is a community, okay?
Exactly.
It's a community of giving.
It takes a collective.
Yes.
Okay. Welcome to City People.
Welcome to City People.
And welcome to your store. And not just your store, to your space, the home that you've created for so many people in this community, in this neighborhood, in San Diego. And so I'm just like, I dream of having more and more spaces like this. So I want to start off by thanking you both for making this a reality.
It takes courage.
It does.
I think it takes courage to say, this is what's in my heart. This is the creative energy that I have, and I'm going to give it out to the world and hope that it works out. And I think that that's what we're trying to do with City People.
So we like to start our episodes focusing on the people we're chatting
The
with
person.
and the person that's in front of us. So if we could start with like a basic question of, are you city people? And
Do you
what does
consider
that
yourself
mean
to be-
about yourselves?
Also, thank you, both of you, for just reaching out to us, because I love what you're doing is archiving stories of people. Literally, it's just like we're kind of in the, no, truly, it's really important work, because we're kind of in the same line of work, right? Making sure that we take down our stories, we take time to be silly about them, we take time to celebrate them, and then we make sure that we put them down in some format, some media.
Let it live.
Yeah, I think, I would consider myself a city person, a city being, creature, because probably that very aspect that I love humans. I love to connect with other humans. Don't get me wrong, nature, I mean, we're planning. Yeah, I consider myself a city person because I love what makes up a city is the people. I truly believe that.
And then myself, I consider myself a city person, but at the same time, as a proud Mexican American, my parents come from really rural areas of Mexico, and every summer we'd go spend months in these ranches, and I got to see my ancestors. Like, anything you wanted, you had to make. And so I don't take for granted, like, just go and say, hey, I don't feel like making coffee today. Let's go to one of the amazing specialty coffee shops we have here in the city. Access to literature, San Diego public libraries. So accessibility, I feel more comfortable. And I feel like, in a way, I owe it to my ancestors, right? That's what they worked so hard for,
Live a life of a little, of ease. I definitely think that's something
we're not scared of hard work by all means, but at the same time, I create space for myself that normally wouldn't be held for. Like, for example, outside of this bookstore project, I am a coffee trader for an importer here in San Diego, and so I have the pleasure of creating like a bridge between producers at origin and roasters here in the United States. And so with that's why I say, I get to flex in spaces that normally people that look like me normally would never be allowed in.
Well, you would think that our ancestors really strived for is this life of abundance and the ability to make these connections between old, new world connectivity on the economic scale, but also like on the human scale, connecting our craft with more people.
Speaking of connection, Sam, later, and I'm going to shout out to my guy Fern. Fernando, he runs a coffee spot called Proyecto Diaz in Oakland. And like,
I know them. Hey, what's up?
Oh, okay, great. I was going to say, I'm like, if you don't know Fern, then you got to meet. Oh my, well, see,
They do great work.
Yeah.
Can you tell us the origin story?
Nobody says it better than Justin. And then I'll jump in whenever I can.
Because I have a feeling it's a wild one.
Of the space?
Yeah.
Or, okay.
Well, or you could go back as far as you want.
Wherever you want.
Back in the day.
There was a bright light.
I was bored.
The seed was always there. I mean, I've heard this story many times. The seed was always there, but it really came to fruition when we were in Oakland and the pandemic hit. I feel like that's a good place to start.
Yeah, that's a great place to start.
Circling back. Jesi lost their teaching position at Mills because obviously things closed down. They lost their, certainly were in the service industry at Moi in Oakland as well. So with that, we didn't know, right? Everybody was on the same page, like what's going to happen? How long is this going to? So we had to sit and be like, okay, do we write it out here or what? My family, I have sisters here. I have a support network here in California. My father here in San Diego. My mom's in Spring Valley. So I have sisters in around San Diego.
I have my kiddo here. My kiddo who I co-raised with my best friend.
Which is a whole episode in itself.
Let's come back into it.
Yeah.
We'll see you next
Their best
week.
friend pretty much said, hey, I'm pregnant. You want to help raise a kid with me?
No.
And then they're like, okay, why not?
Warren has these dreams all day long.
My dream.
And so when I met
Dream
Jesi,
would just be living in the same building.
Right, exactly. It's just like, it's just a version of community, though.
So when I met them, they're like, I have a kid. I was like, oh wait, birth? What's happening? and then but then it worked out because myself, my whole family loves Naomi. In fact, we're having a family event. So we got sidetracked. Okay.
We always end up making, that's just how it is. Yeah, you figure it out. You figure out what to do, and I feel like that's how pretty much Celi and I have always done things together. We've worked on a few projects together. Intuition, a lot of guidance from our ancestors. We had no idea what we were going to walk into necessarily when we took my truck from Baja, California, Mexico to San Francisco. I'd put a call out asking for folks if they had new or used books that they're ready to part with.
You fast forward though, because
Oh,
I
when,
was gonna say there was a seed.
yeah, there was a seed, and the seed was Jesse's and I's first apartment was here in Barrio Logan.
Oh, yeah.
In a little studio.
13 years ago?
15, I would say.
Was that where the little bookstore started?
I mean, pretty much, yes. They came with their own collection. It was
I
like,
used to have, we have this thing called Art Crawl here in Logan, and it's been going on for many generations. It's beautiful, where the community just comes out and cruises around. And during those, I would do a Barrio book borrow. And so I would just bring crates down from our very, very high apartment.
Those heavy crates.
Yep, bring them down the stairs
No
because there's no
elevator.
elevator, and put them out on the sidewalk, and anyone could just kind of come and hang out with the books. So that's kind of a seed I had forgotten.
Yeah. So since we lived here, we would always walk around, and we would walk to our daily walks, sometimes in front of this building. And every time we pass by is usually the business that was previously here was shut down for whatever reason. Whether it was a beauty salon, whether it was a tattoo shop, whatever it was, we're like, what?
So
why won't
several
it?
things
Yeah,
that
I was like,
you've
why?
seen.
I was like, and I asked Jess, I was like, what would you put here? What would withstand?
See, it's your fault. You got it here, y'all. You heard it.
Yeah. And
She asked me.
Yeah, they said a bookstore. I was like, nah, that would sink immediately.
And then here we are. But it's because I taught in this neighborhood in Southeast San Diego for quite some time, and I was like, my kiddos are so about books, and all my friends are about books. So book people, we out there.
Yes. Why wouldn't? Why not?
Yeah, if you make it, they will come, kind of thing.
So I feel that's where the seed actually really started.
That's
right?
actually a really good point. Thank you.
And then them, being an educator and, already living here, putting roots down here, protesting here, doing all sorts of community stuff here already. I feel like I'm living.
Yeah, just connecting with community.
And then, so then pandemic hits. Fast forward, we end up back here in Barrio Logan
On another walk.
on another walk.
And there was a sign in the door.
Was
it empty?
It was empty. It was for rent. And then, it was still the pandemic. We didn't sure. Jesse was like not sure if they were going to go back to teaching. Yeah, they weren't sure if they're going to go back to teaching or service industry. And then we're like, let's just call. Let's see what happens. And then before you knew it, within signing the lease, we got the keys. What, like a week or two after?
Yeah, and then we opened 4 weeks after that. Hey y'all, welcome.
You're welcome. That's how fast the transition went from just
From idea to having a
actually-
lease.
First of all, that is wild. Can you help us understand Barrio Logan for the listeners who are not from San Diego, not from this area, so that we can then contextualize this bookstore and why it's so special as well?
Barrio Logan has already been incredible. I just feel like we're trying to add to the already magic that's already happening here. Like,
Exactly. Exactly. Like Celi mentioned, there's incredible scaffolding that's already been done by so many folks here, specifically in this neighborhood, being a working class neighborhood, predominantly BIPOC and migrant. Man, it's like an opportunity to build on rich soil. Like it's the opposite of building a home on sand, right? It's instead you have someone saying, oh, I have some wood. You need some nails? I got some nails. So it was so rich. They already had those things here available because the community is no stranger to resistance and collective coming together for efforts because of our park, Chicano Park. So honored that it was named a national monument in 2018 as being one of the places with the most murals in one place.
We've gotta just sit in it for a while.
Yeah.
So yeah, very tight-knit community. Everybody looks out for one another. It really does feel like community. Not only do Jesse and I live a couple blocks from here, we have this project here, and so it feels like home. And I grew up in Southern California. Went to school at Cal LA. Shout out Golden Eagles.
Just a shout out to different neighborhoods.
I went to junior college at Southwestern College in Chula Vista. So I have
My dad used to teach that.
I got roots all over Southern
beautiful.
California. And when my father retired, he retired in Rosarito, Baja California, Mexico. So that brings us into how close we are with publishers in Mexico
And Tijuana.
and zine makers in Tijuana, because we're so close. And so why not fuse the two together?
And especially here in Logan, there's beautiful footage of the way in which it looked in the 20s and the 30s, and there was no wall or anything, so folks were moving about, coming and going as they pleased with leisure to either go to a tiendita that they needed to get some goods at, or go work, and there was just this
It's like a hub.
a community hub. And it's always been that way, where the community itself infuses itself with the things that it needs. And so we are just honored to be part of that. And there's also this kind of unspoken, not even rule, but this unspoken thing here where it's like we get so much from each other. So it's innate that you want to bring something.
This episode is all about community and belonging, and how do you actually create that and nurture that in a community? Some folks are starting from scratch, right? On sand. But you said this is rich soil, right? And I wonder what you find your role to be in creating space like that, where you can continue to build community, where you can continue to make people feel like they belong. I mean, we see all of your activations and things that you do in this space. Do you think that that's an intentional part of it? Is it something that the community is asking for you to do? I mean, it sounds like it's very symbiotic, and you guys are co-creating what happens in here, Yeah.
I think Jesi and I discussed this, over time. And I think it's found in the mundane day-to-day stuff that you don't think about.
Yeah.
Like where somebody comes in, it's like, hey, do you have something I can, write with? Or, hey, do you have a hammer?
I love that. Like a neighbor, do you have a cup of sugar?
Yes. Can I print this here? Do you have a scanner?
Yeah.
Can I pay my ticket?
Well, that they feel like they could come in here and ask.
Yeah, and literally we get all that, and I think that's where trust comes in, and vice versa, because we also have asked from community members, and in turn they ask from us, and if we can, absolutely, happily, we will do it.
Can you share a little bit more about the types of activations that you hold in this space that are in addition to the sharing and selling of books? I think that would be helpful.
Yeah, our events, hey y'all, welcome. The activations and events that we host are a huge part, but I'm just really grateful that you brought up the mundane moments or like the daily things, because I want to honor that, like you said, some people are building on sand, and it can feel overwhelming. We don't necessarily have all the answers. We don't really necessarily know exactly what we're doing, but we try every day. And like 95% of what I try to do here is like just arrive to open the door, and then community comes and does it. Yeah, and really truly just like answering that request to open the door, keep the door open. And that is a huge activation for me, because on the daily, the things that we get to experience, it's like overwhelming. It makes me emotional, and I'm so grateful, and I take the responsibility of to steward this space so seriously, with lots of silliness also. We have so many kiddos that come in. This is an unofficial activation that happens weekly, which is about 3:00. All the kids come in. We're at the intersection of a lot of educational spaces here. Traditional, non-traditional. The Lindsay School is right up the street. They're amazing. They're a non-traditional education space, and they're doing some great things with young girls and femme-identified folks in the neighborhood. And they'll come and they'll come and hang out and just like ask us about what it's like to be an entrepreneur, or schedule a whole meeting where we want to pick our brains, or just have these really beautiful conversations. So that's like an impromptu activation that I want to say I didn't plan, but I was really hoping would happen. I just imagined this space full of like young people, but really but really anyone, like you were saying, like I wish I had a space like this when I grew up. So that has just been such a like gift, and our weekly thing that we do. Other than that, we've done everything.
Anything else?
Music, they're signing,
The mini
book
gallery.
releases, mini gallery, you name it. Yeah.
I think the other day or last year, I was like, oh my God, I kind of panicked. I had a moment. I was like, because I like to like Mad Lib. We just made a huge list on a piece of cardboard, and I was like, these are all the things that I can imagine in this space. And then we've done maybe all of them. We've had performances in here. We've had live bands. We've had poetry. We've had slam poetry. We've had piano, drum sets. We've had authors. We've had workshops. We've made medicine. We have done meditation. It's so cool. And why I get so hyped on that is because I didn't do any of those things. Community members, city people, other people came in and then it's like, yeah, we have a space and you have a gift and you have a resource and then we get to share that.
So Sam, you and I are both in our kind of city planning world, government affairs, etc.
Come on in.
And I know you and I have talked about this quite a bit, about the relationship between the very strict rules and regulations that we deal with, the zoning, the street code, etc. I want to just give you an opportunity to say more about that and ask our guests, I think how we relate to the creation of community in that space.
Yeah, there's only so much that city government and even like other surrounding city businesses can do to create and curate something like this. And what I'm hearing from you is that in order to do that, the magic sauce is like iterating with the community and getting that feedback. And I think that's the human component of building a small business or a bookstore that really reflects the community. How can other city people create something like this in their own neighborhoods that feel so authentic and connected?
I mean, we're always answering that question when we get young folks coming in here and say, if I feel anybody has interest, like real interest, I really do share, like, hey, this is overhead that we use. Most of the things that when we started, we didn't have any money, so found off the side of the road, free on OfferUp, friends, family. So, today, in this day and age, you can still start something with very little. And so I try to motivate anybody that wants to start a small business. Yes, you can. Yes, it will be absolutely difficult, but monetarily, yes, you can.
Yeah,
so
that's incredible. And so that's also, we were asking
A little bit about the nuts and bolts around keeping a bookstore and keeping a bookstore open and protecting all of this.
Open 7 days a week.
Open 7 days a week. How does one, I don't know, how does one book a bookstore, Like, is there anything else that people can glean from this that is like, I have a dream, they sort of did it in this way, and I can maybe replicate that?
no rules, right?
Yeah, no rules. Yeah, try everything. And then I think truly something that I've learned from this space teaches me something every year. I leave with a word. Last year was surrender. The year before that was hope. And the year before that was messy. And so like every year there's a word that the space teaches me. And this year is seasons. Everything has a season. And we can only look back from where we've come because we started. And then once we started, there was the season of the early seed. And that brings so much joy to my face and to my heart right now because we're no longer in that season anymore. And then you're in this other season. So like we have way more stuff in here. We look at photos from back in the day. We started with only my personal library and that little trek that we said with my back of my truck filled up with books from community members. We just made a call out and said, hey, if you have any books, we're going to drive up the coast and we'll come and collect them. And that's what we did. And then we started with whatever we had. So I think that has been really important for us. And
Growing organically instead of just taking out a $200,000 where you can get into some trouble.
One thing I wanted to call out, and it's I'm going to push us here a little bit, is that I think it is quite radical to open a bookstore in this economy, in this environment that is so internet focused, is so on demand, free delivery, deliver right now, etc. And so I wanted to give you all an opportunity to sort of flex on what it means to have created this space with that in a way as a backdrop, right?
Yeah, that was my initial fear when we were discussing the bookstore, because I told Jesi flat out, absolutely not. like, do we want to make money or money? And I mean, not to make, because nobody. I don't think anybody goes into. Nobody goes into a bookstore to open a bookstore to become rich, right? I don't think so. Anyways, not our intention.
not with the green stuff, with other things.
Yes.
So freaking rich. Wow.
Exactly, and that was
richer than you can imagine.
Abundance beyond belief.
Yeah. So in my mind, a bookstore is like, oh, you have to stay on top of the New York Times Top 100 list. Who's going to come? All these questions. Why would they come to us if they can get it cheaper and faster, like you mentioned? All these especially the big devil, as we all know, Jeff Bezos, But Jesse's like, oh, that's not the intention. I want to have a third space, We're only going to be serving our community, like where we live. And I said, oh, okay, well, tell me more. Tell me more. And wow, what they've created is amazing, because you see our shelves, they're all, black, brown authors. A lot of them are local to San Diego, California. We buy from publishers here in San Diego, like Sunbelt.
Chula Vista, they're amazing.
Yeah, they write beautiful books on Kumeyaay people here in San Diego. So Jesse's idea was hand curation, which, then it started to click. And then when I started seeing people come in and glow, say, wow, what is this place?
She became a believer.
A believer, and then continued to add to us.
Yeah.
That converted.
No, and I want to just mention that there is something to be said about a balance. So yes, there's seasons, but then also a balance. Like, I just a dreamer, kind of. I get that a lot from my mom. She's always dreaming up new ideas, and I'm grateful for that. But I'm so incredibly grateful for Celi's experience from coming from a long line of entrepreneurs. She understood what it was going to take. She was like, that's cool, you want to paint the door yellow. I'm like, the door is going to be yellow. She's like, cool, you got that figured out. Now we have to get an EIN number.
I've worked with artists before. Wow, what a cool vision. And we have books to order. We've got like rent to pay. What's the POS system we're gonna use?
I'm like, let's light a candle.
And this is the candle we're gonna have, and you're like, baby.
Yes.
Zoom out.
It's a balance.
But our project management times, we need artists like you. Otherwise, it's like, paint with all the colors.
Yeah.
So go ahead. No, I was going to say, so fast forward, I never could have dreamt that this bookstore would have taken us on this roller coaster, and I've met the most incredible people. The people that come support us daily is the community, people that live here. Mind blowing. Yeah.
I want to kind of round us out. This has been such an amazing conversation, and if I could just move in again, if you'll have me.
Are welcome. We're gonna move in.
And I have family that lives right around the corner, so I'll be here a lot more.
Yeah, us and Zero.
Yeah. So for our listeners out there, just thank you for joining us on this tearjerker, warmth episode. Thank you to our guests for being here in your space, right? Thank you for welcoming us into your home. Yeah, our space. And I really hope that folks out there check this place out and encourage other spaces. It doesn't have to be a bookstore. Just encourage their own creativity to just be injected into our community.
I was going to say, we usually end with what now, but I think this whole thing was a conversation about what do we do to recreate this in our daily lives as much as possible, and to support businesses like this as much as possible, and to take part in the creation of this as much as possible. So thank you for the courage to start to listen to that little seed and to grow it and nurture it and bringing it to us.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you all. Appreciate it.
Libélula showed us what happens when you build a space with personality, when you let it be imperfect, layered, and alive.
But as rents rise and formulas take over, that kind of expression gets squeezed out. What's left is a city that looks good on a brand deck, but feels empty in real life.
That sameness shows up most clearly in signage. Logos replace lettering, fonts replace hands.
We spoke with Koi Sun about the disappearing art of hand-painted signs and what cities lose when visual culture becomes standardized.
Koi's work reminds us that signs used to tell you where you were before you ever checked your phone.
From bookstores to brushstrokes, this episode connects the dots between independent businesses, visual identity, and the fight to keep cities human.
Let's jump in. Hey, Sam.
Hey, Word. Hey, Koi.
Hello.
Hello. We're in the second part of our episode about community culture keeping.
No, it's okay.
No, it's fine.
It's okay.
Go ahead through.
You can go around.
You're totally fine.
Nice.
We're joined by our most famous guest, I don't know, Koi Sun. And so we're just really happy to have you. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you for having me. It's cool to be here on a lovely Saturday, and I'm excited to talk about whatever y'all are interested in.
Well, and I think people don't really need an introduction to your craft locally here, because we walked in and within 2 minutes there were 3 people that were screaming out their windows, "We love your work!" But I actually am really interested in knowing the person behind your art. how you grew up, like what really shaped you? Who is the person behind the art of these stores?
Yeah. So I was born in Thailand and moved to the U.S. around when I was 4 years old, and I was mainly raised in Boiling Springs, South Carolina. So I'm actually technically an East Coast kid. I've lived in San Diego for about almost 10 years now, getting close to there. So I'm very proud of my hometown, but San Diego feels the most like home. In terms of my upbringing and like my main inspirations, a lot of it comes from my dad because coming to the U.S., he was he balanced between, he straddled the line between being a hoarder and a collector.
Okay. Oh, well, there's that. It's a fine line.
Yeah, and so I grew up with a lot of like old vintage toys, a mix between Star Wars or like Ultraman, all different types of stuff. And so the kind of pop designs that I grew up with influence a lot of the work that I do now.
You can do it. We have a hopscotch in front of us, so it's really tempting to get in our shot.
Most of my interest is that coming from a background of doing graphic design where everything kind of had to be clean and flexible with like, oh, it needs to look good as a logo on my Instagram as well as like on t-shirts and all these other things. Yeah. And I think what I love about the designs that I do and the things that I'm attracted to aesthetically all come from kind of like maximalism, but with some taste.
Yeah, right. With some level of curation.
Yeah, some level. Yeah, exactly.
Well, what we're talking today specifically is the city signage and the signs that people have seen all over this city and maybe some other cities nearby. And that in some ways it's like a lost craft. Before we get into, I'm curious if you consider yourself to be a city person, given your background in moving from Thailand to South Carolina to here. And if you do consider yourself a city person, why?
I mean, it is pretty tough because I think early on, maybe if you asked me that in high school, it'd be like 100% city person. But
so what percentage city person are you now? Addicts of city people?
Like, honestly, like truly half and half because, I mean, even here in San Diego, like, I mean, it's definitely a more spread out city than compared to like LA or New York or something. And as a kid, I had this idea of like, I'm going to live in New York, be in one of those like, whatever those called, like your third stories, high rises, you open it and just be like city, you know, and, you know, as any kid would. Yeah. But now as an adult with the ability to, as I transition to moving to a bigger studio, I've had to like learn about kind of like city regulations and like noise levels and it just made me realize it's just and pricing as well. And there was a certain point where I was like a foot out the door in terms of moving out of San Diego because it felt like, even though, you know, financially I've been a lot more successful than I've ever been in my entire career, it's still not enough to kind of like navigate the city the way that I would like.
Just a reminder, our viewers and our listeners, this may not shock anyone. San Diego is an incredibly unaffordable city, and California is an incredibly unaffordable state. And it is fascinating to speak with anybody who lives here, even who makes lots of money, that it's like, it's really tough to feel like you have a foothold here.
Yeah. And it made me really sad because you know, I'm in this position of, you know, being a popular content creator that works with like big businesses, big companies and stuff. And in my position, I'm struggling to find spaces, and I can only imagine what folks on the day-to-day who, you know, want some sort of to build their own businesses and things like that to function and stuff. And I mean, the space that I'm moving into right now, though, I appreciate that they've been the chillest landlords. It's like they're in Arizona, and then oftentimes a lot of these businesses are run by large corporations out in all separate parts of the city, and it feels, you know, for me, the lack of emotional connection has been really discouraging.
Yeah. When I just want to zoom into that for just a second and repeat for folks, it is almost ironic, if not painful, to hear that someone who I think Sam agrees and the neighborhood agrees is a champion for kind of like keeping community culture alive and local and through your art, that you yourself have trouble staying here.
Trying to define yourself as a city person simply because, like you said, 100%. But can I sustainably stay here? Can other artists continue to be a city people? And I think that's a real question. I mean, there's trade-offs to all of it, right?
And that's the thing is I love community, and I still want, no matter where I'll be, I'll still want to support local businesses and stuff. But the reason it is like the inaccessibility, the inflexibility of where I'm able to do and what I'm allowed to do. And so for the most part, it's just kind of like, well, I don't know. Part of me is just like, do I just go out to like Ramona or Bakersfield and buy like a patch of dirt and then just have like, I eat, sleep, and work.
Mona or anything like it's still unaffordable.
Just out in the desert.
Yeah.
So I can just be like, I call it like gremlin mode, because I'm like sanding down wood and then like fixing motorcycles and just kind of like all these other things. Yeah.
Well, Claire, just get everything you say. I'm just struck by, but and I'm sure we'll have an Easter egg here. We're gonna have to have an episode of, can I afford to be a city person? Yeah. And I want to push you for just a second and draw a distinction between like your heart versus your wallet in a way, right? That like, if your heart is a city person in a way, right, versus like your ability to stay in a city, right?
No, that is funny that you say that, because I've actually used that term before with another friend. But yeah, in my heart, I do say I'm a city person, like 100%. And I remember talking to my friend, another content creator, who's kind of struggling with the space that he's in, and he got some advice, and the guy's like, hey, why don't you just, and he's in this position, like he has enough money to do this, like, why don't you just buy a house and also your photo studio is in the same place? And then it's just like, I remember he was asking me, he's like, what do you think? I'm just like, he's like, my heart tells me no, because it's so cool to have your own separate photo studio, and it's super cool. Right. But my brain is just kind of like, I guess it makes sense to just, the money goes, the boring thing, you pay, the money goes back to yourself, you live there, you don't have to worry about commuting, and it's just kind of like, that's not fun, but it's also kind of the most reasonable thing to do.
Yeah. Kind of. And I think that's what we all have to make, is the trade-off of like the want versus have.
Yeah.
And in an ideal world, we have it all. And we are seeing some of that fabric get pulled apart through this affordability crisis. Something else that you said that I really want to talk about, and that struck me, is like what you're allowed to do. I think that has everything to do with why we don't see enough of your signs in cities, or signs like yours. But I also think there's a really interesting movement right now where people increasingly want that in their lives, from the political posters to small business city signage. People want more of that texture and that richness. And they're clinging to it because I think we've gotten to this like weird, people call it corporate slop. And like, I want to hear your experience about how you've run into this regulation challenge with signage.
Yeah, I mean, calling back to the fact that most of businesses here are owned by large corporations in different states. In order to, they don't just probably own businesses in San Diego, but probably in LA and all other parts of the states as well. And when you're running so many different things, they kind of try to unify, or to scale it. They have everything be simple, because sometimes, like, even when you own a plot of land, there's also other owners who have like certain regulation about the kind of colors you're able to use and what kind of installation you're able to do. And so when you have like regulations on top of regulations, everything, all these business like landlords, right, they want things to be predictable so that they can manage it all, rather than being like being specific with each individual business, or well,
it's a headache to a certain degree if they get in trouble, right, for city signage or something like that.
Yeah, it's like the issue, and things like when you make everything easy, it becomes it's boring. Everything looks the same.
It becomes beige.
Yeah, exactly. Beige, grayish, things like that. And the use of vinyl is all in, not so much affordability, but it's just it can be peeled off when the business eventually dies, and then they move on to the next one. And
I'm glad that you mentioned, Coy, that there's something about the artwork that is almost as resilient as we hope the building will be, right? And you kind of see this with really old signs that are the Space Burger in Oakland that is not a burger place anymore, that, some of the car washes and drive-ins have these big signs that are quite durable, even as the businesses have changed. And so I want to ground us, just for our viewers, we are just outside of the Libélula, where we were, moments before with Jess and Celi. And so I want to talk about the sign that's actually just above your head. Just ta-da! And if you could just share with us a bit about that project and sort of zooming out, like how that work came together and your inspiration for it as well.
Well, as San Diego is very unaffordable, a lot of the types of work that I do for storefronts, especially for small businesses, is inherently to keep them up and going, basically. I tricked Celi and Jesi. We set up a budget that we agreed on. And then when I finished everything, I was like, oh, I don't want to be paid. It was all donated.
Oh my gosh.
It's all donated work. And I tell them it's just kind of like a lot of Barrio Logan, this neighborhood that we're in, it's changing every day and the business is closed. And this is one of my favorite bookstores. And it's just like, I want to use the powers that I have to keep businesses afloat in such a difficult city. And in terms of like my thinking of how I designed everything, it is like a push and pull, like it controlled maximalism because, simple and minimal is the most legible. So it's just like, if you have the word books in like a standard block letter, it's more legible than this thing right here, because I acknowledge the fact that like Libélula, the way that I designed the lettering, is kind of difficult to read. And it is kind of like that balance thing where it's just...
also hard to say in general. So in some ways it flows with the whole, brand of it all.
Exactly. It's like even people who speak Spanish struggle with saying Libélula, and they correct me in saying it in different ways, and then Celi and Jesi would be like, they're like, no, say it this way. And so one of the kind of like rules or lessons in sign painting is that oftentimes the name is the least important. And so that also allows us designers to kind of go crazy. Oftentimes, Libélula, if it's by itself, no one really is going to understand because it's Dragonfly, but it's a bookstore. And so for this case, like I took a lot of inspiration from kind of like carnivals and rótulos, like Mexican signage.
Yep.
And kind of put together this eccentric thing that is more of a personality, like a personality hire.
Totally is.
And then the thing that kind of ties it all together is just a simple block letter, Books Co, because this is the thing that it defines the thing, and books is over there as well. And all the other kind of parts. And so that's the kind of like, it's also up there. And so...
Did you make that sign as well?
Yes, I made the green sign and then the calligraphy on top as well.
Amazing. Oh my gosh. I mean, it is... you're right. Now that I think about it, we all know it's Libélula. But the sign itself is striking in that it is kind of crazy, right? Like it's so intricate. It's bright. It pops out. I think the contrast with the bluish green and the red is also kind of unique for like the surrounding area. So it really pops out. But I don't think anybody would actually know that it says Libélula.
Yeah.
But this is awesome. I think it's so important that we contextualize the work that you do and the type of, and how it allows you to create products like this. We're going to hopefully be able to go to your studio that's maybe in transition to a new one and kind of see it all play out a little bit. What do you guys think?
Let's do it.
All right. If you could just share the process of like what the studio means to be here situated in San Diego. I know that you are very quickly kind of outgrowing this space too, but like to put down roots in the community that you're making art for, what is that? What had that felt like for you? And what do you think is sort of the evolution of that work? The blue.
Yeah, I think I remember. So I actually have a manager that has been with me for about a full year now. And he actually got to visit the studio for the first time. And for someone who works so closely with me, he was just like, I did not realize that you have so much stuff to do what you do. And it's...
We'll walk around and sort of show the vastness, but this is a vast space.
It is. And
it's full.
And that's the thing is like, when he said that, I was like, I do have a lot of stuff. It didn't occur to me.
What it takes to create it.
Yeah, because to me, it feels so simple. And obviously right now it looks like chaotic mess, but when it was at its best, everything had a place and it all existed for something. And I think I want my signs to to live for a long time. In order for that to exist, before I even get to the fun part of hand lettering, painting, illustrating, or anything, it's prepping the surface and making sure that everything is primed and that it's sealed. Because especially since I work a lot with wood, prone to kind of getting wet, things like that. It's a warping, things like that. And so I spend a lot of time like lovingly kind of prepping it.
Yeah.
Well, on the way here, we talked about how important city signage and storefront signage is to you. And I'm curious why that is such an important choice. I mean, for us as city people, we see it like it's the declaration of what the business is and kind of what the city is. But I'm curious to know like why that's important to you and how that's different from maybe some of the interior projects that you worked on.
Yeah, I would say my interest in storefronts first, like it feels like I can directly support neighborhoods and communities a lot more, just having it be on the outside. And the second thing is that for specifically signage, I don't know the exact phrasing, but it's like, oh yeah.
No, I'm just keep going and we'll see if I know it. You haven't said enough for me to guess yet.
It's like if you spent like, $1 million on the interior, it's like everything's going to look good on the inside, but no one might not come in. But if you spend like an extra $5,000 on the exterior, then that could like make or break your business. That kind of thing.
Yeah, I don't know what that's called. I think that's just good logic. I want to give our listeners a sense of the scale of all of your different projects. So we left Libélula with this beautiful sign out front, several different artworks that you've done for their windows. I'm also aware that you've worked with a transit agency. So I'd love to kind of zoom out in the frame in a way to talk about that project and the work that you put into that, just so that people can really understand just how big of a deal you are.
It's moving too, on top of everything else.
Right. So show off a little.
The thing is, like, yeah, I guess part of being, I guess I am more of a city person than I really.
Yeah, you'd start with like maybe not 100%. And it's like, well, I guess I'm kind of a big deal. So go ahead.
Yeah, it's I love trains. I was literally a foot in the door with doing work with Amtrak. But then this is if you're a content creator, you hear this term a lot. It's called, we're doing a short pause on the project. And it usually means it's a very polite cancel. It's like, hey, we're doing budget switches right now. It's usually the head of a head. It was like they changed their mind, or like they didn't have the money, and so it's just like, we're doing a short pause. Maybe we'll reach out next year. And I'm just like never hearing from y'all again. But anyway, I was really bummed out about Amtrak, but then later on MTS.
Because you're a train lover.
I am a train lover. Yeah, exactly. And so when MTS, San Diego's local transit comes into trolley, reaching out for a collaboration, I was really excited. And it was specifically like it hits a Tchotchke's kind of thing, because they asked me at first to design their card, the Pronto card. So it's just
the transit tap card.
Yeah, exactly. So people would be able to load money into this custom design that I made card and use it functionally, kind of the way like the Metro card or any other thing. And so I was really hyped about that. And
it's because it's a collectible now.
It's a collectible, and it's functional and it's accessible because it's like $1, about like $1 or $5.
Yeah.
And then later on, they surprised me and being like, we're also going to wrap your design on a bus. And I was just like, that's cool, but is the cards ready?
Because it's like a vending machine. You could literally put $1 and get one out.
It's funny because like folks were really excited about the busting, and I am really excited about it. Actually, we can unroll the wrap.
Cool.
One of the people, the nice people, oh yeah, you're good. One of the nice people that installed the bus gave me one of the scrap pieces. And so I was thinking of like doing like build like a giant frame for it. And everything.
Next studio is going to go
exactly.
Yeah.
Awesome. but it's like, it was that card. Like today I care more about the card still.
But that's cool. I mean, you live in people's pockets, and it is functional. It's as functional, if anything, as like a city sign, right? And the tchotchke thing, like a hoarder versus a collector, I feel like it could be for anybody either.
And one note before y'all chime in more. When I did make the video, I've some people told me that like, I mean, the cards went all the way to New York. What is that? Like
wow. And that doesn't surprise me at all.
Yeah. I was surprised, but I kind of knew at the same time because the video did well. It was like, I never told me how much money they made or if I sold out or anything. Yeah. But people were apparently calling a lot, and they were shipping out.
Because you gave a phone number out, right?
Wow.
A phone number, because they're very like weird. Like you couldn't just order it on a website. You have to call in. And I'm pretty certain that they were busy for a good month.
Yeah.
Well, so one of the things I'm reflecting on, and Sam, I'm going to zoom into what you just shared, is that it's one thing to walk or bike or take the bus or drive past a sign that makes you feel like you're a part of a community and that you're represented. And I think it's an interesting aspect to consider that you might be carrying a card with you that helps you feel like you belong to a community and in a community. And I think that that's the other part that you've done so well, is that you are bridging those two divides of a neighborhood that, especially for Barrio Logan, that's experiencing and has experienced lots of change and shifts, that for many people, myself included, to consistently see themselves in city architecture and in city signage, but that just the same, you are also helping people walk around with a sense of pride that it truly, like an official bus card is showing your art and that it is representative of their community. And I think that speaks volumes. I'll make a quick correlation here. It's just that there's a project I worked on in Oakland where our bicycle signage, and for folks out there, we all know, anybody, you don't have to be a transit planner to know this, the pedestrian sign is like a block character walking. And during the pandemic, we asked a local artist to make stencils for official city signs that were better representative of the community. And what was interesting was that he painted two young girls running towards the camera frame instead of across the sign, if that makes sense. And if you're familiar with black hair styles, it's not uncommon that young black girls will have pom-poms, in their hair, right? And that one of the girls had pom-poms. And when he was showing us the initial drafts, I was getting choked up because I was like, there are going to be young people, and specifically young black girls, that are going to see themselves in city signage. And that when we're telling people to slow down because there are kids at play, that they are seeing themselves as the subject of that conversation. And I think that that's really, really valuable. And so I just relate to what you're sharing in terms of the card being a piece of that, signs at bookstores showcasing a piece of someone's community and their culture, as well as it's all a part of that fabric that makes us feel welcomed and belonging.
Seen. Yeah. And the only other plug that I'll make about the card, because obviously we're all gushing about the card, is that it's a tool to help connect people physically, right? You use the train, you use the bus, you use the trolley to get from one place to another, and the accessibility of that and keeping that in your wallet, and it's your key, right, to get in there is incredible. But also the design, we'll show up the design maybe when we pull this out. The food items that I grew up with, that my grandma used to go to 99 Ranch to go get in Seafood City, used to get, those were the things that I remember growing up with. And would I have ever dreamed to see what are the little soy yogurt thingies? What are they called? On a transit card? No, never. I would love to ask you about how important the storytelling is behind the signs. Because it's one thing to see the sign up in a store and feel a connection to it, whether it's, some connection to some historical reference or community references, but you're also a storyteller as a content creator. And your platform allows you to tell the full story, right? Of Libélula, for instance. Did you ever imagine that was going to be a part of your artistic process? Or did it just kind of come together and you use that platform to push out those stories more?
I definitely did not imagine my life culminating to this. The thing is,
I always dreamed I'd be a star.
Yeah,
we always knew you'd be.
Yeah,
I did want to be a YouTuber, maybe around 15, 16, and I did attempt that and just kind of gave it a good try. I think I posted about 100 videos, and just I wouldn't.
That's a pretty good try.
It helped build a foundation, but I think I was thinking more about output than impact. It's I don't know, it's just a lot of other things, but it wasn't that I gave up. It's just college, other things. It seemed like my efforts could go elsewhere, but it helped build a foundation to kind of what I do now. But even then, the type of content that I do and the foundation and the frame or formula that I kind of created for myself was very much not planned, and it didn't envision. It was almost borderline by accident, but at the same time, it seemed like a lot of my interests kind of all were building blocks to kind of put me in this, what I do now. And, Warren, what you mentioned about the pedestrian crossing sign, my main goal with my videos was like to focus on specificity, because by that point when I started making content on TikTok, it was like me kind of throwing and giving up on all my expectations, and was like, you know what, let me just take things that I think wouldn't work and then just force myself to make it work, or just like, just forget, I don't care. Like I'm gonna do a video about like cleaning my brush or something like that, or just
And this is what's the best part of the internet, because we all know there are some pretty awful parts of the internet, but I think the best parts are when we all get to see that really niche thing that you're interested in, I'm really interested in too. And that it is, to your point, just as you were saying, like I can imagine the texture of you cleaning off your brush. I used to paint as a kid, and so I know I can imagine what that looks like so clearly, and I know what it feels like, and I know how frustrating it is when you're like, the paint is off, isn't it? And it's just still running, and you're like, how? And that, we've all seen those videos of someone, cleaning a pool or mowing the lawn, but that's the cool part, right? That really niche thing you're into, I'm into as well, and that what is also exceptionally exciting is that it's not just that I think that's cool, it's that I can see that you're having a great time, and that with everything else going on around us and how challenging it is to live in cities for so many different reasons, to get to see the joy and the passion that people bring to their craft. It's one thing to see the sign and say, that's really cool. And it's another to see the making of it and to understand that you're putting yourself into it, and that is just as exciting.
Yeah. No, thank you for that. It is true. Like I get excited about telling the story as much as kind of like doing whatever, especially the type of work that I do. Yeah, I do have a lot of fun though.
We could tell, and I think like people are having fun alongside you, and I do think it's bringing to life how important handmade craft is, and that can be just a little extra touch to a city that makes it feel a little bit like more human.
Yeah, it all runs back to specificity. The way that designing Libélula, I considered the cultural aspect of the neighborhood that they're in, and so with anything, I remember I needed to buy like a food scale, and I just went ahead and just bought like the cheapest thing that I could find on Amazon during the time, and it kind of stopped myself being like, man, like why can't I have like a food scale that could last forever? Like if I could find like an eclectic food scale, if that makes sense, or or the same. It's the reason why I have like carbon steel pans and things like that. Where it's just like I care. I learned a lot, or like knife sharpening is because all these things, like it's intentionality, and which same thing for signage, where it's just these vinyl signs. Like we just need to put something up. It doesn't matter,
right?
And then it just like creates this neighborhood of just like it doesn't matter. Just put it up, and then
it's just this throwaway culture, right?
Yep. I'm thinking about cities that last, and that the texture of a city will last, and that. Oftentimes when people say, the best parts are like the historic architecture and this and that, and that, I live in a home that's 130 years old. Mm-hmm. And I fully expect that unless something terrible happens, it'll stand for another 130. And that for folks out there who know the Victorian homes in San Francisco and Oakland and the Bay, or even craftsman homes, especially in Southern California, or mid-century modern homes in Southern California, there's this art to them that several people designed those with the intention that they're going to be there for a very, very long time. And so I'm scaling up and down here to say that it's quite clear to me that your work and the designs and the effort that you put in is meant to last. It is meant to be a part of the very fabric of the community, just as the building that Libélula is in, right, is also a historic building. And so it's quite matching in that way.
We always like to end these conversations with a kind of what now? It's like, okay, we have this information about how important city signage could be to a small business, and how connecting this type of art, this type of craft can be in communities. I'm curious what listeners can do with this information now. And we're always asking people to notice. Mm-hmm. The art of noticing is a lost art these days. And so we are asking people to notice city signage and notice what perspectives you're seeing in city signage, like the pom-poms and the hair and things like that. But I'm curious if you have anything for listeners that might delight them or pique more curiosity, or even take action to support the type of work that you're doing.
Dang, like it's one of those kind of questions that I definitely haven't prepared for.
Okay.
Yeah, because I mean, there's just so many. I think a lot of it has to do with practice connecting with
the
neighborhood that you live in, rather than just existing in the space. Because in this case, it's just I always treat myself as a guest here in Barrio Logan. I remember when I essentially got pushed to this neighborhood, not because I don't love this place, but it's because like, oh, it's a Chicano community. And I just didn't want to come in and add on to it's just like, oh, I'm just like this fine artist coming here to do art stuff and, you know, in a cheap studio. Because like in my head, I was just like, oh, I'm going to go to, I guess I'm kind of stereotyping myself, but it's just, you know, I was trying to stay in my, it's like, oh,
you gotta do what you gotta do.
I was going to go to Convoy. It's like, this is where I go. You know, I get to eat all my favorite.
I mean, the best Thai restaurant I know of is on Convoy. Do you know which one I'm talking about? What's it called again?
Is it Kin?
A neighbor.
Yeah,
A neighbor.
Kun Thai.
Yeah,
a neighbor.
This city is huge.
I need to
and I'm like,
it is huge.
all over these places.
I mean, you could drive an hour out and still be technically the part of SD.
A neighbor.
So, you know, what I'm trying to say is that I was like, okay, I'm here in Chicano Park. Like, the only thing I can do is not the only thing, but one of the choices that I made was to help businesses. And so for me, like one of the first folks that I connect to is Provecho in one of my favorite coffee shops here. And, you know, I started working with Gerardo and Karem, the two owners of the spot. And then from there, eventually Libélula. Now, even as I'm planning to move out of this neighborhood, I'm working on designing the storefront for Material Happiness, a fabric store just like up the street from here.
Cool.
Yeah. It's very sweet. Melissa's very sweet. They're hosting like workshops on like sewing, clothing repair, things like that.
That's amazing.
Yeah, and so it's just like I think
community of like all these makers, and that's so amazing.
It's so, it can't always be. I would say that like, I mean, it's easier to say it's like, oh, volunteer more, like know your neighbors, all these other things, but it's just like the only way I can think is just look around a little bit more. Like there's just little hints and details.
Be curious.
Yeah. There's always a way to like kind of help, and oftentimes it relates back to the theme of specificity. It's just like, yeah, I'm out here like eyeballing letters when, you know, there's a plotter that can cut out the letters for me and Photoshop to align everything, and somehow people still come in and care about signs. It's just like, my parents' restaurant, someone from Hong Kong was visiting San Diego, and they went and visited my parents' restaurant, which is my parents' restaurant is in a business park in Sorno Valley. So it's like,
wait, what's your parents' restaurant called?
Thai Test Kitchen, TEST, and an exit down is La Jolla, which is where you can see seals.
Yeah,
very popular.
So what, Noble or Genesee or
yeah, exactly. But you know, they choose to go to Sorno Valley in a business park. And they're really like, I saw your TikTok. I'm here from Hong Kong. Yeah. It's like you're in San Diego. You can go to the beaches, and you're out here in the middle of nowhere. Yeah. And this is
what I love about cities, man. Like, it's just the number of times I've run into people. Yeah.
And that's the power of just being specific. And the thing is, it's like, you know, I'm not trying to downplay myself in terms of like my artistic skill. Like I know I have a lot of it, but at the same time, it is kind of ridiculous to see people so excited about letters, you know?
I think that's a great thing to end on, because you have somehow like captured so many hearts and minds across the world, apparently, all the way to Hong Kong because of your letters.
Yeah.
Thank you for just having this amazing conversation with us. This is awesome.
Thank you so much.